Welcome to tonight's webinar, Notes, Organizing Your Research for Personal Study, Teaching, and Preaching. Tonight's topics are as follows. Number one, we're going to look at essential resources for digging deeper on this topic. We're going to talk about to note or not to note. That is the question. Number three, knowing your destination will help you choose your path of what you'll keep and so forth, and what you'll take notes on and the tool you use. Number four, we'll take a quick glance at program settings because they are important when it comes to taking notes. Number five, we're going to look at all the various document tools that Logos now has. And as the expression goes, the right tool for the right job. And then we're going to get into number six, informational meat and bones, what to keep and what to discard. This is always a challenge, and I'll have some tips there for you. And then we'll talk about our final destination, the personal book, and the role it can play when it comes to notes and so forth. Tonight's webinar is our 11th one in the series of the fourth Mondays of the month. And as you can see, we're almost wrapping up the year, and I'm very excited with next month's, which is Heaven, What the Bible Teaches series. So that's going to be really exciting on the heels of Christmas and the birth of Christ. So it's very, very exciting. Don't forget, we have free live training 3 times a month. What we've got coming up next week, December 3rd, is using the Logos iPad and iPhone application. So I'm thrilled to bring that live to you. You'll be able to see the actual app in the presentation. So that's going to be fun. Also, December 10th, well, there's the Heaven, What the Bible Teaches series. And then December 17th, I moved it back a week so we could have a couple weeks off for Christmas and New Year's. So we've got a webinar at that time, and studying the prophecies of Christ's birth, ministry, and death, which would be very appropriate as well for the Christmas holidays. If you are interested, sign up at LearnLogos.com/webinar. Just a quick reminder, webinars are normally $9.99, but we've got them discounted for you for $4.99. Take advantage of our training DVDs, 50% off. And in fact, let me just jump ahead right away to the Black Friday, Cyber Monday specials. These are absolutely amazing. Many of you have already taken advantage of that. Just a quick reminder, the Logos 5 training videos is in the works as we speak. And Lord willing, I'll have that first release this Saturday or Sunday, and that'll be the first installment with the next couple installments coming over the next couple weeks. And if you just go to LearnLogos.com and click on the Black Friday, Cyber Monday screen or a little logo there, that'll take you to all the specials. And it's a great way to kind of round out some of those collections you haven't had a chance to get your hands wrapped around. So take advantage of that, and we are going to extend it one more day into tomorrow. I know that happens sometimes where people are just too busy, and so I want to give everyone an opportunity to jump in and take advantage of that. So the specials will still be in force for tomorrow. So we'll call it Secret Tuesday sale. There you go. How about that? And all right, so let's get started here, and let me go to the new Logos 5. And like all new webinars that we're creating, every webinar comes with a personal book, and that has the various links and various pieces of information in there. So what I'm going to do just is I'm going to right-click on the tab, and I'm going to open this in a floating window so that we can kind of move this thing around as needed. So let me scroll down and go to the first resource. Now, this is not a Logos resource, but it's such a good book. This is actually was done by my pastor, and it's a real practical resource for creating an atmosphere to hear God speak. In other words, it teaches you to journal. And of course, you can use all these techniques in Logos, but it's such an effective tool, a very affordable tool, that I wanted to bring this up. And in fact, let me do the front cover here. And I believe that chair is somewhere here in Chattanooga. So you're looking at some hill in Chattanooga here. Let me go to the table of contents. There we go. I jumped a little bit too far ahead. So what you're going to learn is how to hear the word and how to read, how to memorize, how to pray, and how to obey. And then there's some helpful appendixes, doing scripture memory cards, and so forth, and a prayer log and a reading plan and so forth. It's just a short little book, but it's very, very helpful, and I just want to point that out. It comes highly recommended, and I think it'd be a great resource for you. And let's see. Oh, Angie had a quick question just to backstep. will Logos 5 training videos replace or supplement the old ones? It'll be a complete replacement, Angie. So make sure you take advantage of that. It'll be 100%. When you order the Logos 5 downloads, you will get the downloads for the 4.0. If you already have those, you can skip the download, and then and then I will be emailing you the Logos 5 when it's ready. And you'll get both the interactive and non-interactive videos. All the non-interactive videos are PC, Mac, and now iPad compatible, so that'll be a real advantage there. So even though this book, Create an Atmosphere, is not in Logos, it's such a valuable book that I wanted you to take advantage of that while there's still some inventory left to get. Okay, so let's go back to Logos, and we got a couple other books that I think you'll find very helpful. This one is Learn to Study the Bible by Andy Dean, and it is mostly about studying the Bible, but there's some important chapters in there. So let me go back to the resource and show you what I mean. So here's a section on book details, and the author shows you how to prayerfully read the book, but also gives you some ideas for taking notes on what you're reading. Now, this is 40 different Bible study methods. So this is just one example of some of the things that you could learn from, like what's your first impression, what literary style does the writer employ, what are the key repeated words. Now, this is just one of many Bible study methods and one of the many suggestions for taking notes while you're studying. So this book is just huge because, like I said, it's 40 different step-by-step methods to help you discover, apply, and enjoy God's Word. So take advantage of that resource. It's very affordable, and I think you'll find that most helpful. Another one that's pretty good is New Testament Exegesis and Research. So let me go ahead and click on that and open up that resource. And let me close this one down for you. And now this is more the academic side of things, but nevertheless, it's still very valuable, even if you're not in school. Here the appendix was talking about the term paper and the exegesis paper. And what I found helpful for this is just some of the ideas in it as far as what you need to study, what you need to write down, what you need to organize, how to organize an exegesis paper, which is very helpful, talking about bibliographies and what other piece of information you should have. Now, again, this is the appendix. There's lots of stuff in here too, the best recommended resources and so forth. But as you go through this, it's telling you the kind of information you need to keep and have organized and so forth. So I think you'll find this very helpful as just an additional book to round out your library. Another resource that I think will be very helpful is the Rediscovering Expository Preaching by John MacArthur and the Master's Seminary, and very good resource. Let me go ahead and open up that one. And they've got a neat section here on the study method for expository preaching. And in that study method, it will talk about the information that you need to observe, for example. What do you write down in your observations, and so forth. So again, the idea with these resources is not that they're specifically designed to teach you everything about taking notes, but that they do make mention of notes in the context of studying and researching. And that's where I thought the books would be most helpful. Believe it or not, there's not really anything out there specifically in the Logos library that I could find dealing with this topic. So this webinar really will come in handy because we're going to try to kind of put all that together ourselves. Now the next section is number 2, and that's to note or not to note, and that is the question. I get so many questions on this very issue. Do I use the Logos notes? Do I use Microsoft Word? Do I use Apple's Pages? What do I do, John? And I get this question quite often. And unfortunately, my answer is not always the most satisfying one because sometimes you need to use Logos notes, and sometimes you need to use MS Word, and sometimes Pages, depending if you're a Mac or PC. But let me give you some questions to ponder as you make this decision. And by the end of this webinar, it'll be very clear what you're going to want to do. So fret not. And yes, Bob, we will definitely be talking about clippings too. Now, first, let's talk about Logos Notes versus just other word processors in general. Logos Notes is there for convenience. Let's understand that. It's great that it's there. It makes our job easier, but it's very limited in capabilities. So if what you're doing in the research you're doing in the study preparation and all that, you're looking for something more robust. That is, looking for more effective tabbing and bulleting, formatting, and all that comes with your word processing program, then you're really leaning on the side of capability. And so that's going to be really important. In addition to that, I think comfortability should be an issue as well. You may know how to use Microsoft Word so much more naturally and can use it more efficiently than you could use the Logos notes. So that's certainly a factor there. Now, one of the advantages of Logos is that as you're typing Bible passages, and this works for the PC, not as so much for the Mac, but as you type a passage, as soon as you hit the space bar, it's gonna make a note. So let me move this over and out of the way a little bit, and let me just move this whole resource out of the way, and let me demonstrate what I mean here. So let me go ahead and close this down, and let me go ahead and open up a note file. And now this feature again is just for PC. Now you can do it in the Mac, but it's a little more complicated. But essentially, if I type in John 3:16, and as soon as I hit the space bar, Logos auto tags that and makes that a clickable passage, which is really nice. And Bob chiming in there, I want that in the Mac, and so do I. Now to do it on the Mac, you have to actually select the text, okay? Control C, which is copy, or Command C. Hit the little chain link, paste it in there, and it may already be in there, and then press enter, and that will get you there. The reason it showed up on mine is because I already had it in there as a hyperlink. So let me do that again without the hyperlink. So you type it in, Control C, hit the chain link, paste it in there, press enter, and then you're good to go. Okay? And that's a real easy way to do it. So I don't know why Logos has that as a limitation in the Mac. It should be forthcoming, I would hope, but it'd be a good feature suggestion if it hasn't already been suggested. Now, that's one other advantage. Now, another significant advantage of notes, and we're going to go into notes much more detail later, but the searchability. In fact, that is going to be across all the documents you create in Logos. So that is one of the other advantages. You type something in Logos, you will be able to search it later in Logos. Now, one important feature to remember with all the documents in Logos, I'm going to click here on the resource panel, which is this little book icon right here. And you will notice that there is a print export feature. Every document has this, which means you have the ability to export anything out of Logos into another format. So don't worry that it's all in Logos, because you can simply print export it and get it out of Logos. And the same works in reverse. Anything you have in Word can be brought into Logos, specifically through a personal book, or just copy and paste it into your note file. So the ability to go back and forth kind of renders this a moot point as far as what is the advantage or disadvantage of either. It really is going to go back to your comfortability and what kind of features, what's the task at hand that you need to get done, and how quickly, what's the most efficient way to do it. But I will admit this, that in Logos notes, and we'll again talk more about notes, but when notes start getting long and lengthy, that's where the limitations come in. So let me give you an example of how this can be a real pain. So I'm teaching through Romans on my Sunday school class, and I've got my Romans notes. Okay. Now, as you can see, my Roman notes are extending quite a bit. As I'm scrolling down here, you can kind of see bits and pieces. There's quite a bit of information here. Okay. Now, here's the problem. Let's say I've got a couple books open. All right, and let me open up New American Standard Bible, my Bible commentary. In fact, let me have this kind of side by side. Okay, so here I am in my Roman notes file. Let's say I'm at right here at Romans 1:19, and I go, oh, I need to put some information here. So I go back to my Bible, I go back to my Bible knowledge commentary, I then return back to my notes. Well, guess what? Logos loses my position. This is really irritating. And so because it's such a long document, I've got to now go back. I got to find that spot. I got to click in the document. And so it becomes very difficult to work with long notes. And so this is something you wouldn't discover until you started really depending upon notes. And at that point, you're like, oh, this is so frustrating. So if you're going to use notes, keep them short and sweet. Once they start getting long like this, it can be really difficult to work with. Now, I see a question here by Sandra. How much backup do we have with Logos notes? Are they saved on the Logos cloud? That's one of the benefits of Sandra of documents inside Logos. They are all backed up. And so really that is a huge advantage. And as we get through this webinar, I'll show you a strategy in which you can have the best of both worlds. Work on your Word document and yet have it saved in the Logos cloud. So, but very important I point this out because this is one of the frustrations with the notes feature. Now, John has a question. Could you put a asterisk at the note point and then search for it when returning? So let's see. If we do Control F and use a special character, then let's see. Let's try that. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little star here. Or better yet, let's put a triple star so that's something unique. And then I'm going to do what I did. I'm going to leave the document, click on something else, come back. I've lost my spot. I'm going to go triple star, and now notice that it doesn't take me there. I've got to click in. Now and then I'm going to try hitting it again. And nope, it doesn't work very well, does it? So great idea, but not possible. So even though you can search for it, all it's going to do is take you to the note, which is one giant note, but it will not take you into the individual element in the note, which is really unfortunate. So my advice, when you're dealing with lengthy items, you're better off keeping that either outside of Logos and bringing it back in later, or break down your notes into smaller increments, and that'll make it a little bit easier. So in this case, I have here Romans 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through 19. What I would then suggest is create 19 sections, but that can be a little tedious too, but we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I wanted to point that out. Okay, so long note files are very difficult to work with, and as I mentioned earlier, very limited in its features. You basically have some fonts, bold, italicized, small caps, exponential, small cap, superscript, subscript, coloring, doing some background, a little bit of indenting, and some basic bullets. Now, one thing just to point out, you do have some indenting capabilities, two kind of levels. You have the high level or the title level, and then when you click on the title, you can hit that, and that will allow the whole thing to move. Okay, so very important you see that in action. And then within the document itself, once you click in there, you'll get access to these two guys right here. And that will allow you to indent as well. So let me demonstrate. So here I am, and actually that's not the best example here. Let me go here and hit indent. And so there you can see it indenting a little bit. And notice that when you do the indenting, it's creating this extra line in there as well. So it's very restrictive. You can basically, you got three layers. No indenting, 1, 2, and you can go more that way, but with the bullets, there's some limitations. And so let me put that in there, and let's see how far we can go. Yeah, so you can get a little tricky sometimes with the formatting. So if you're not using bullets, then you have a little more flexibility where you can begin to indent, as you can see, a little bit further. Of course, you could put a star in there and do it that way, and that would work effectively. But if you want to use their bullets, they're going to push it back, and then you'll be limited on how far you can move it in or out. So there's some examples of some of the limitations of the formatting, and this is by design. Please understand that Logos's goal was not to replace your word processor, but it was to give you something basic to work with. Once you understand the limitations, then you can more appropriately use the tool. The challenge is when you try to make it do something it was never designed or intended to do. And long notes, lots of formatting, excessive indenting, those were not really designed into this tool. So you take that into into consideration, notes can be very helpful. If you ignore those rules, then notes is going to be very problematic. Okay? Let's see. Sergey, maybe you should let Logos know about that so they can come out with an update to fix it. Yeah, they have gotten lots of, let's just say, praises and curses regarding this tool. So I've just tried to live with what it is and know its limits, and you'll be fine. Thanks, Sergey. Okay, so that's to note or not to note, which is hopefully the question has now been answered. Now, the next part of the webinar is section number 3 here. It's knowing your destination. Let me bring this back in and try to explain where I'm going with this. All right. One of the things, because knowing your destination and then choose your path. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, there's 3 questions you always have to ask yourself when you're going to bring information in.